So let's take a look at the first module here. And to find the modules, if you look here, you don't see the... Oh, there's lecture 1. Oh, good. Oh, good. Neat. I think it's been... No, that's right. Lecture 1 is here. Yeah, that's just a description of the module. The actual module is currently in Pages. It's going to be fixed later and put up in the module, but right now you can't see it, I think. Let's see. Is this it? Oh, good. Okay, I managed to get this one up. My assistant is helping me with the Canvas, and not all the lectures are available yet, but we'll get that fixed. Anyway, the first one is... And I mean, even in student view, that means you can see it too. So I don't have slides. I haven't really bothered. It doesn't seem necessary. You just have a summary of the chapter here. So forensics is retrieval of evidence, generally for a legal case, like a court case or a criminal case. There's a whole bunch of related professions in this. One is data retrieval, just from people who have broken computers and they want to recover data from it. And another one is e-discovery, which is also legal. E-discovery is when you get sued. For example, Oracle sued Google and said, you people used Java to write the Android operating system, which you use to run apps on the Android phones. And there you have to pay us royalties, and you didn't pay us royalties, so we are demanding a whole pile of money, billions of dollars from you. And therefore, the judge said, you, Google, must go and recover all of your documents and emails and spreadsheets and everything else about how you used Java in Android by this date. That is a task called e-discovery, to search through computer networks and find all the files related to a certain topic. All of these use very similar tools. How do you search through some device with all the files everywhere and find the particular files that are important to you out of all that mess? That is the point of this course, to understand how data is stored on computer and mobile devices, and how you can retrieve that data and filter it and find the important data. And there are many applications of that, e-discovery being one of them. So that's forensics, means suitable for a court of law. All right, that's what we're trying to do here. So as in a court of law, your evidence is either inculpatory or exculpatory. Inculpatory means it shows that the crime has been committed by this person, they are guilty. Exculpatory shows that this person is innocent. You find evidence, of course, and it helps to contribute to either one of those sides. Computer forensics is not the same as computer security. Security is the state of well-being when things are working well enough and the criminals are held back enough that you can live your life and do your job. Computer forensics is an investigative procedure after something has gone wrong to figure out what's happened. And it isn't always a crime. For example, it can be some kind of security incident where some hacker comes in and does things on your system, and that would probably be a crime. But most companies are not interested in the criminal aspect at all. They just want to understand, what did the hackers do? How do we kick them out? How do we prevent other ones from coming in? And what did they get? Or do we now have to go through a breach disclosure notification because they got important stuff like personal data of our customers? Or do we not have to do that because you're able to investigate and find out that they did not get the important data? That's a computer forensics task. So that's the point. It's about investigating computers to find out what's on them. And in particular, one of the things you often do in computer forensics is recover deleted data. Data deleted on computer systems is usually not destroyed entirely. It can be recovered with forensic tools, and that sometimes is that's an important thing to realize. All right. Good. I see good discussion there, but I don't think I need to get involved. All right. So there's lots of evidence you're going to find. One real popular type of evidence is email. This is extremely handy, of course, because one person is talking to another. You know what date and time they did it. You know the identities of the people to some extent, although it might be a fake handle. And so this, you show what people are doing. You can get a chain of events because everything has a date. And of course, it's easy for people to understand email. All right. And also, another good thing about email is it's almost impossible to destroy. You may remember in the 2016 election, there was a big deal about Hillary Clinton's emails because she made the unprofessional decision to mix her work and business emails on the same machine. And then she deleted some emails saying they were personal, but the Trump campaign accused her of having deleted business emails. And the question is, where are those emails? And as far as I know, They were never really found, although the Russians hacked and exposed some stuff. And generally, it's hard to really get rid of emails because it's not just on your machine or the destination machine, it's also stored on servers. If you guys see the stream stopping, then you can adjust that in your Twitch client. And let me just point that out. You're looking at Twitch. If you point into the middle of the screen, then some adjustments will appear here. Settings. And there are things you can change here, like the quality, I think, for example. And students sometimes know what the best thing to do to stop it from cutting in and out is. Let me check the quality of my network connection at this end. Unfortunately, they seem to have taken away the button that used to give me a colored mark telling me how good the stream was. I think it says 0 dropped frames. It seems like from this end, my stream is okay. If you're having a problem at your end, you probably have to adjust some things here in your viewer. And someone said turning off this low latency might do it. So anyway, you try some of these settings, and also refreshing the page helps sometimes in Twitch. When it freezes up on you, just refresh the page. Anyway, that's good to bring up. If you have any kind of trouble, please let me know. This is a weakness with this sort of amateur broadcasting system. I don't get a way to see what you're seeing very accurately. So if you can't see or hear, let me know. All right. So in general, it's very hard to delete emails, and so if they can't be found, they typically can be found on one of the servers they've been passing through. All right, and of course, email is generally admissible in court. And one very interesting thing about email, due to a quirk of the law, there was a time, maybe 20 years ago, when people typically did not put email on their computers. What they did was they left them on servers, and they would only download them using something called POP3 from the server when they're using them. And the result was, if an email was, and the emails didn't live on servers the way they do now, like Gmail just lives on a server and you just view it, you would download it with POP3 and it would be deleted from the server because the servers didn't have enough storage space to store all the emails. So you'd download it to your machine and then you'd throw it away on your machine when you're done with it. And the point is, if you were to stop using your email account, you would stop downloading it to your local machine and it would just pile up on the server. So at that time, it probably makes sense to pass this law. They said if there's stored communication on a server that is more than 180 days old, you no longer need a search warrant to seize it because it's considered abandoned property. Now, this no longer makes any sense because all of us, like I use Gmail for years, all my data is on Google server forever. None of it's ever stored locally. But the law persists. So this is an interesting fact about email. You can get email that's 180 days old without a search warrant, which is probably a serious invasion of privacy, but it is the current state of the law. All right. And I see a lot of people want to change this law, but they haven't done it yet. Then there's images. Images are very important in court because they're very easy for the jury to understand. Technical things are often difficult to use in court because you can't explain them well to a non-technical jury and judge, but people can just look at an image. And there's a lot of image types: bitmap, JPEG, TIFF, and PNG, and so on. And the images themselves are often the crime if you're interested in one big topic in forensics is child pornography, where people have illegal images, and then the image itself is the crime. But even if that's not going on, usually the images help prove what people have been doing and where they've been going, especially on cell phones, because if you take pictures with your phone, they typically are stamped all the time with the date stamp and the latitude and longitude where that phone was taken, where that picture was taken, so they represent a record of where you were when you were doing things, and that can help people prove a lot about what you've been doing. And the same thing of video. Now people take videos all the time. There's surveillance videos all over the place. And so the Ring doorbells are surveillance video, the ATM machines, and all over the place. So they can be quite compelling, of course, if you can have videos of what people have been doing. All right. And one thing that's very commonly quoted in court and in news articles about court proceedings is websites and internet searches. You will do this in this class. The browsers keep records of what you've been doing, and you can easily recover them. And so there's a case recently of a wife who poisoned her husband and said she hadn't done it, and they found that like weeks before she'd been going on Google and searching what is the best poison to use to kill my husband and how do I get a poison that will be untraceable and so on. And that was evidence against her, saying it looks like you were, in fact, planning to poison your husband. And cell phones are a big, important topic, of course. Everybody has these smartphones. They live their whole life on it. They have their email, their phone calls, their text messages, their other things they use like TikTok, everything is on there. And so getting data off the phones and analyzing the data you get off the phones is a really big issue these days for almost every case. All right, and then there's all the other Internet of Things devices. And not only cell phones, we got smart thermostats. Your car is full of all kinds of smart devices that keep track of where your car is going. Your light bulbs are becoming smart. Just all through everybody's house typically has a whole bunch of these gadgets. They're all computers and they all store data to some extent. And so you might find useful information on any of those gadgets, and it becomes a pretty complicated technical challenge to figure out how to get the data off those devices. I should mention something, it'll also come up again later. If you cannot figure out how to make an electronic connection to some gadget, like you might have an old cell phone using some strange connector, and you can't figure out any way to electronically remove the data, there have been cases where all they did was open the text messages and just take photographs of the text messages and page through them, because the real evidence in court is the human investigator. The human investigator goes to court and testifies, I examined this device, here's what I found. And your examination does not have to be perfect. In fact, it probably never is perfect. But you do record what you did. You say, well, I just looked at it and saw the SMS messages and photographed them, and here's the photographs. That's evidence. It doesn't have to be collected in a perfect technological manner or anything. Nobody cares exactly how you did that, except the opposing side's forensic examiner will look to see if you did something wrong that would create a false impression. But if what you did was look at the data and photograph it and it was really there, that's perfectly fine. It's not complete, but it is evidence. So when all else fails, you might end up using sleazy procedures like that to get what evidence you can off of some strange device when you cannot extract the hard drive or connect to it electronically or in any way really copy all the data. So if you want to be a forensic investigator, you have to understand a lot about information technology and hardware, how to correct how data is stored and how to understand when you get it back, and other concepts like encryption, BitLocker, Lux and FileVault, and so on. And then you have typical investigative abilities, understanding you're going to try to prove who was actually using the computer, looking at the credentials the owner recorded on the machine, and proving what intent was here, like how many times did they go to this website, how many times did they open this file, and so on. Knowledge of Linux is quite important. A lot of devices are based on Linux. Even though in the rest of the country, although not so much in the Bay Area, a lot of people use Windows at home and at work, but all your portable devices are almost all based on Linux or Unix, so you want to learn about that. And then some knowledge of the law is good. You're not as complete knowledge of the law as a lawyer would know, but enough to understanding what data you're allowed to gather and what records you should be keeping and things like that. And like I said, that's how a district attorney ended up in my course, because they didn't understand enough technical information to realize that they were exposing data that shouldn't have been made public in their court filings. Like that case I showed you in the news, these people are just throwing away computers without realizing that they're leaving data on them that can be recovered quite easily by someone who knows how to use the tools we're going to cover in this course. All right, if your computer is, typically data is protected by the Fourth Amendment. You cannot search and seize data without getting a search warrant first. Now, one exception, of course, is if you're at work on a company computer, then that is not your personal property, that's the company's property, and the company can authorize you to investigate that machine, even if the user of that machine doesn't agree. But, hold on, let me see if this phone call is a student or something. Hi, I'm Sam, can I help you? Yes. Just go to a computer and go to samsclass.info, and you'll see a Twitch link. You should join us. No, it should be in person, but I didn't go because I have a bad cold and I don't want to spread it. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Well, yes, so go to a computer and connect to Twitch, and if you and for what you missed, there'll be a YouTube video you can view later. Okay. 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 Bye bye. Yeah. I was afraid of that. That might be what that call was. Okay. Anyway. All right. So you have to show reason. You have to show probable cause to get a search warrant to get permission to investigate somebody's machines. And you have to have good communication skills. You have to be able to write your results, and you have to be able to write a report for a non-technical person. A lot of technical people get offended by this. I remember when I was a younger technical worker, I was sort of irritated by having to try to explain everything in non-technical language, but you really have to get good at that. Every technical job, you will have to report your results to a superior or a manager, and they're typically not as technical as you. That's why they hired you. You're the expert in something, and they're not the expert in that thing. So you need to explain it in terms they can understand. And especially in court, you're going to be talking to judge and jury members that probably are not technical at all. So you have to be able to boil this down to what it means without irritating them with technical terms they don't understand. So that's very important to learn how to communicate what you've found. And so language skills are good. Knowing multiple languages is good. And in all fields having to do with technology and especially security like this, you really have to keep learning. Everything is constantly changing. Always new devices, new techniques, new malware, new attacks, and the law keeps changing. So you do have to continuously study. And if you get any certification in this business, like a CISSP or Security Plus or anything else, you'll have to keep learning continuously to stay competent in the business. And they usually have a formal process of proving that you're continuously learning to keep your certification. If all you know is information from decades ago, then you're not really qualified to be working in the field. You have to keep up with it. And another thing is you have a requirement of maintaining confidentiality in any security profession, just like a lawyer or a doctor. You will learn information that is not public information, and you have to shut up about it. When I served on a jury a few years ago, and they found out I was an ethical hacker, and they were very freaked out. They thought maybe I was a bad person and shouldn't be on the jury, and they asked me, what about Edward Snowden, who leaked a whole bunch of confidential military data deliberately while under contract? They said, what should happen to him? He fled to Russia, and I said, he's got to be prosecuted if he comes back. I mean, he signed a document promising to keep this stuff confidential, and then he leaked it. And that's what his lawyer said. His lawyer said, my recommendation to you is stay in Russia, and Mariana Chapman, don't ever come back, because I don't want to try to defend you, because it's hopeless. You signed a contract promising to keep this stuff confidential, then you just published it for the whole world to see. I don't know what I could do for you. You're hosed. And they liked that answer, so they left me on the jury. So this is important. You have a position of some responsibility, and some information you find is not public, just like a doctor or a lawyer. So in the 1980s, the FBI began sort of the modern world of computer forensics, and they passed the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act in '86, which is now a very old law in the world of technology, and unfortunately pretty disturbing, but it's the main one used to prosecute most hackers, so it's come up a lot in my work pen testing and such. And what it says, unfortunately, is that if anybody connects to a computer system and they learn information that they are not authorized to have, they have now broken the law. It doesn't say you have to find a password or break through a barrier or other things, which you might reasonably expect it to say. So it's possible for very innocent research work to run afoul of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, and it very often does. In the 1990s, the Electronic Crimes Task Force was formed. I'm a member of this. You can join too. It is actually a very good group. It's part of the Secret Service, and they have very good meetings. You just have to be recommended by a member, and until recently you had to prove that you always worked on prosecution and never defense. Someone told me they recently lifted that requirement, but it's a good group to join. And then they also formed the Regional Computer Forensic Labs at this time, as computer forensics was being solidified and the procedures were getting documented. And then as we went ahead, the Patriot Act, of course, in 2001, greatly expanded the Electronic Crimes Task Force and greatly made it possible for terrorism cases for the government to be far more invasive, searching far more things and collecting far more data than used to be legal in America in response to terrorism. And in 2010, cryptocurrency appeared, and Edward Snowden, I mentioned, dumped out his stuff. After Edward Snowden dumped out that data, there were some new security procedures passed. I'm not quite sure how they affected law enforcement, but I know they affected our international relations a lot. And so, anyway, there's a lot of places you can get training. Obviously, you're getting some training here, but there are other police and sort of more police and military-oriented places you can go. And there are some professional certifications. In the field of forensics, the only certifications I ever hear that anybody respects are NCASE's NCASE Certified Examiner. A lot of people like that. They will ask for it when employing people. And the next one is this one, Access Data Certified Examiner, ACE. These are the two primary forensic products that are used. NCASE is the one used by most police departments, and the FBI uses ACE. This one's called FTK. Access Data is FTK. Unfortunately, both of them are very expensive, and neither of them have a free version for training that's any good. So we're going to use a free product called Autopsy, which is the open source imitation of these products, but it's not as easy to use or as luxurious, although it's getting very good. It's much better than it used to be, but if you are familiar with the world of Office products, there's Microsoft Office, which is a very extensive suite that does everything, and then there's OpenOffice, which is the free version, which is much more limited. It's about 10 years behind the real Microsoft Office, and it's the same here. The product we're going to use is the free version, Autopsy, and it's okay, but it's about 10 years behind the real professional stuff, which is NCASE and Access Data. And so there are special certifications just for them. It would be great if I could get you that certification in this course, but I can't because both of these products would charge thousands of dollars per student. So let us use the product, enough for you to get trained in. It's kind of a shame. Anyway, so that's a summary of the situation. I'm going to stop this recording.